Alright, guys, here it is, my review of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Happy Stormtrooper face. Remember, this is just my opinion. My opinion isn't the right opinion. I'm not here to hate on anyone. I don't want to be one of those aggregators that can hate on a movie. I'm just here to connect and to entertain. Thank you. And if you find I might do that, you can be safe and leave if you want to. But for those that stayed, thank you. So, this was, if I were alive back in 2002, this would probably be my most anticipated movie of the year. And, sadly that I wasn't the biggest fan of The Phantom Menace. I didn't exactly like the characters or the CGI, but it had some decent world building. And in this movie, we get less Jar Jar. I mean, I guess I don't hate Jar Jar, I'm just not the biggest fan of Jar Jar. Let's just put it that way. So we get less Jar Jar. So this movie is basically about an assassination attempt on Padme, and then Anakin's like a supervisor and bodyguard, and they eventually fall in love, and there's a love story in the whole middle act. The part with these type of movies that have like a love story in the middle act is the fact that the whole middle act can feel like nothing's like moving the story forward. It can be kind of like, hey, Padme, you think we should get back to the movie now? Huh? It could feel kind of like that at times. So it could sadly feel like there's no tension in the middle act. Doesn't feel like the clock is exactly ticking in this movie, and it also sadly doesn't feel like it's the most interesting or there's the most chemistry. Sadly, just because of some of the dialogue, like there's one piece of dialogue that Anakin says that gets Padme on. He's like, "I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here is everything is soft and smooth." Continues to inappropriately touch Padme. I guess Padme's now thinking, wow, how romantic. Boom, romance. So the dialogue in the whole movie I wasn't a big fan of. Another thing that I wasn't a big fan of that kind of relates to the dialogue is the acting. I wasn't the biggest fan of Hayden Christensen's performance. Anakin Skywalker, some of his line delivery of dialogue I wasn't the biggest fan of, and I didn't like as much as I thought it would. Now, I also feel like this doesn't really have an arc. So, let's talk about the fact that Jedi aren't supposed to have feelings. I guess that can make sense if you think about it, because feelings can equal to clouding your judgment, and I think that's a thing, right? Anyway, clouding your judgment and that stuff. So that part makes sense. What doesn't make sense is what's already been explained in Chris Duckman's Attack the Clones movie. Great channel. You should go check it out right there. So anyway, basically, the problem is that you try to make more of your kind, and how will you do that exactly if you don't fall in love? Another thing that issue with all these like laws that the Jedi have to follow is it doesn't exactly make the most interesting or compelling characters. Sadly, they don't exactly have wants or needs, so they can't have an arc, and you spend a large amount of time with these characters, which let's just say I wasn't the biggest fan of. Anakin had a want this time, but not a need, so that was sadly not enough to create a building blocks for a compelling character. And I also sadly didn't like the CGI. As the Phantom Menace, I think had too little detail. I feel this had too much, and I find the CGI was sadly a bit obvious, which is very disappointing in my opinion. Another thing is I don't think because of the dialogue there's the most like friendship between any of the characters, and I don't think there's exactly the most friendship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, which is really sad because I find that's one of the things that really should have been explored in this movie. So it also sadly featured in my opinion, some of the worst lightsaber fights where people are just going like, ring around the rosy. Anyway, I don't know. So sadly it could feel like spectacle for spectacle's sake at times, because sadly I didn't like the characters. I didn't like any of the character interaction, the dialogue, the pacing, or the CGI. Also, so another thing that I don't think that many reviewers I think address actually is that I think this movie's too long. There's some sequences that you can just tell are kind of put in there to give something more, and I feel like a lot of that wasn't necessary, especially a conveyor belt sequences about, I would say, like 3/4 throughout the movie. Also, the villain isn't introduced for a long time, so it could feel the stakes also are pushed back, which is replaced with this love story that also kind of muddles the pacing a bit. But Obi-Wan does go on this adventure, but it still doesn't feel like there's any stakes there. Yeah, so I find this movie just has too much, actually. I feel like it could have ended at so many points. It just kept on going, in my opinion. But they did listen to Jar Jar, but he did give us Senate meetings, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. But overall, sadly, didn't like Attack of the Clones as much. I didn't think there was as much world building. Sadly, again, these characters didn't have that much time to interact with the world around them. I've been debating which one I like worse, this or The Phantom Menace. And but because I'm debating about it, I'll give Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, C-. I know other reviewers have given this movie that grade, but that's just because it fits there, I would say. I sadly didn't enjoy it, but it has less Jar Jar. So that's just my opinion. Remember, my opinion isn't the right opinion, it's just my opinion. Thanks, bye, see you later. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to.